Now then, Restore Britain dropped a video yesterday, so I'm going to check it out, see what we're saying. I do think young Bob here is a good individual. I'm happy to support his work. So we'll see what he's got to say.
We're here in Great Yarmouth, and the first thing I want to say is, for the people at home and for the people potentially voting in Great Yarmouth, for the sake of clarity, on the ballot, will it say Great Yarmouth first, or will it say Restore Britain?
It will be Great Yarmouth first. There has been a bit of a confusion with that, but it's the smallest sister party for the area to put Great Yarmouth policies first. So you will just see Great Yarmouth first on the ballot box.
And that was...
Well, I'm glad they resolved that. Not that I'm from Great Yarmouth, but at least they clarify one
to
thing.
sort of pilot also sister party and also party to represent the local interests of the constituency. Exactly. And you've already been out canvassing, leafleting. Yes. Have you found anyone still remaining within the Reform Party? And is that just because of confusions, because of Rupert Lowe potentially still being there in the minds of many different people? Or is that just because they believe it's the only viable option? Are they still tactically voting in their head?
So yesterday was fascinating because when I went out, and I was saying to the lads earlier, I don't want to jinx it for today because we've not got another day of canvassing. But yesterday when I went out with Harrison Pitt, we were going around obviously doing the door knocking and speaking to voters for the postal vote.
I've just got to admit, that's not something I would particularly enjoy doing. I've had a job before where I did have to knock on people's doors and talk to people, and it's quite an unpleasant prospect, I think. So, I don't envy politicians in one regard for having to do that kind of, grunt work. But, that's part of the system, so, it's what they have to do.
And when we were out, we were overwhelmingly positive, the response. I didn't have a single negative. The most that I had was a guy being very British and saying, I'm undecided, but I'll take the letter. Thank you very much. Have a good day. There were two ladies.
I mean, that's good, though. I always just think, why can't people just be polite? Why do they have to be rude just you knocked on the door? You know what I mean? It's a bit unnecessary to be so aggressive straight away as soon as you're answering the door. But yeah, we'll continue
that we spoke to, who their biggest concern was all these politicians, they say one thing, but they don't actually fulfill their promises. That was the big sort of topic that we found on the doors. And they said, so maybe we might vote Reform. Now, we said, okay, well, we're here to represent Great Yarmouth first / Restore Britain. And we said, the thing that we find is the establishment politicians are the architects of a lot of the problems that we see today. And we believe, and we're very...
Yeah, that is a good point, and that's one of numerous reasons I'm not a big fan of Reform. First and foremost, I've never liked Nigel Farage, and his recent behaviour over the past few years has made me dislike him even more, and I would never trust him. And then I've completely forgot what the second part was. Maybe I'll just...
biased, and it's up to you who you decide to vote for.
Yes, I've now remembered. It was because they have also taken on loads of the sort of career politicians from the Conservative Party as well, like some of the people that were involved in creating a lot of the problems over the past, over a decade. So, yeah, just, I don't know. You're going to get really angry with this, but I just see Reform as like a completely defunct choice, quite personally.
Today, and we believe... and we're very biased, and it's up to you who you decide to vote for. We believe that Reform have betrayed their base by taking on the same architects of the problems that we see today.
Yeah, agreed. I agree there. I mean, I don't maybe need to labour the point more. We'll see what he's got to say.
Suella Braverman, Robert Jenrick, Nadine Zahawi, etc. And whilst explaining that and saying, we at Restore Britain / Great Yarmouth First have put in a promise to say that we will not stand senior careerist politicians that are just...
Yeah, that's the thing that always annoyed me when people were so happy with Boris Johnson years ago when he was made the Prime Minister, is that he was a blatant career politician, especially with the way he moved back. He would have normally been a Remain candidate, the referendum, but he decided he'd go for the Leave argument, and because it's more, it would advance his career more. And there's other... such scenarios where he's done that, and some of these the jumping party have also done the same. And I'm completely against the old career politician aspect. I've always just considered, I suppose, it was something we were cursed with. Couldn't get rid of these people, but maybe we can boot them all out of office and get fresh people installed. And even if they make mistakes, at least some of the mistakes might be mitigated by some of the advancements that we make.
Looking to give you those same promises and then not actually action. And if there is a problem with enacting a specific policy, to be transparent with the people. And immediately they said, okay, we'll vote for you then, which is wonderful.
And what would you say is the party which is the competitor in this election? Who do you think is your enemy, so to speak, in this constituency?
Well, we've had rumours that allegedly a lot of reform candidates will be coming up, or ex-candidates will be coming up to do some campaigning against Rupert. This is the same party who threw Rupert out and tried to get him put in prison under false charges. So I don't like the term enemy, because there's a lot of good people that are friendly. Competition is probably the best bet. I would probably say reform is my answer, but we can only see.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, and I would also like to comment that compared to the demographics of other canvassing teams, probably the youngest I've seen across the country.
Yes.
No offence to our boomers at home, but there's a lot of young people here, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that shakes out, especially for the next 2 years, because I don't, not to be rude, but this argument will increase, like the young people one, and obviously as people age, there will be less of them. I'm trying to be polite here about this, but obviously there'll be less of them in this old boomer I want to vote reform mindset, because I don't mean to be rude as well here, but I sort of do see like the boomers as the ones that sort of perpetuated all these problems. So I kind of think I have very little care for how boomers feel, because they're essentially the ones that have kind of contributed to all the problems that we're sort of in the middle of, or have been facing for like over the past decade and whatnot. Not completely, I suppose, but the fact that they would always keep voting in like the same two parties, Labour, Conservatives, and keep going back and forth between. I mean, I know we had the coalition government. When was it? 2009? I want to say 2009. I forget the exact year. I'm sure it was around 2009. Yeah, I mean, that would like prove to that in one way we could maybe shake it, but it was like with the Lib Dems of all, hardly conducive to breaking up the two-party system as it was then. And hopefully, I mean, it will kind of be fragmented, and I know that people might be coping and seething about that, but like, look, the two-party system has goes into the mess. I think it's time we dispense with it. I was somebody who originally in that other referendum to change the voting system did want to change it, but we kept the silly first past the post system. That's why we keep taking these L's over and over again. But yeah, I'll leave this here for now at the minute. If you would like to check out any of the other videos I'm going to make in the future, feel free to give me a subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you in the next video.